May I remind you that trading is risky and not suitable for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Welcome to QuantBox Daily. Today is Wednesday, October 26th. Interesting things happening on the fundamental side. So euro dollar coming through is neutral now. Okay, interesting. We'll take a look at technicals in a moment. News-wise, we've got some medium and low tier news coming on the Eurozone today. More medium and low tier news out of the Eurozone. USD, we got some low tier news later today. We got some medium and high tier news later on from the States. And then much later in the day, more medium and high with some additional low, right? That's like much later. So in terms of the Euro slot, the London slot, just some low / medium tier news out of the Eurozone, France. All right, so we got neutrality on fundamentals. We'll take a look at technicals in a moment. Pound dollar also some neutrality. Is there a change coming? Nothing coming out of the UK today. USD CAD is still showing us a buy fundamentally. Nothing coming out of the CAD today, the Canadian economy. Aussie USD is still showing a sell. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Kiwi dollar is showing neutrality. So basically out of the dollar pairs, if you were basing your trading on fundamental bias, only Aussie USD CAD, and just those two actually, even Kiwi dollar is neutral. Interesting. We'll take a look at the pairs in a moment. Aussie yen still showing neutral, CAD yen still showing neutral, Euro yen neutral, pound yen neutral, Kiwi yen is a buy. Let's take a look. All right, so we'll start with euro dollar. Again, neutral on the fundamentals. In terms of where we are, you see price coming up, this higher low, a lower high, and a higher low, still no higher high. You got top of the range over here. Price coming up yesterday, closing at this resistance left-hand side. Okay. You got price breaking out of this resistance and testing that support. So price not being neutral as it closes that resistance. Okay, something to pay attention to. So the big question is, can you sell at that resistance? Well, let's take a look at the H4 time frame and just see what happened at Asia. Coming up to a profit-taking zone, that's quite key. So Asia bias is the 8 o'clock candle. That's over there. So we take our daily time frame, just grab that wick. Let's just get it in there. So 99768. 99768. H4. All right, cool. So we can see that at the 8 o'clock candle, price not breaking that resistance, that wick, not resistance, wick. And we haven't got price closing at support. We've got price closing at resistance. So as far as we can tell, if the daily was bearish at that resistance, it continues through to the H4. Let's take a look at our H1 and just see how that translated. So H1 jumping into the daily, let's get that wick again. $99768. H1. All right, so we can see here the Asia bias is the 1 o'clock candle, which is right over here. Okay. What's interesting is you've got this range going on here. Okay. Price closing at the bottom of that range. over here. Let's take a look at our M15 and just see if we had any lower lows, lower highs. And we can tell based on the fact that prices continue going up, we did not. So looking at the close of the 1 o'clock candle, here we are here. You can see no lower lows, lower highs. These candles here coming down, closing at that support. These candles coming up, closing at that resistance. All right, well, it's fine because Asia, we didn't trade Asia, we're trading London right now. We can see that Asia continues and the H1 candle closing at that support, which is something you'd ignore. Price coming down, price coming up. Taking a look at the 4 hour in terms of the London bias, that's the 4 o'clock candle over here. Price closing at weekly M4. Still haven't broken that wick. Price closing at this resistance here on the left-hand side. H4 indicating bearishness. Let's take a look at the H1 to see where we are in terms of London. So the candle that's currently moving right now, that is the London bias candle. So what we're paying attention to is, has this candle broken the wick? So we don't know yet because the market hasn't opened yet. So we'll look to see if this candle breaks this wick. Has this candle broken resistance? Keep in mind, you've got the top of this range over here. And in a range, you want to pay attention to the wicks as well. Okay. And what you could do is you could say, okay, well, that's fine. If I'm going to trade here, if I'm going to sell this, remember, you're neutral on fundamentals. Okay, so that kind of says to you, be careful. But if you were to follow this, looking at the M15, you'd be looking for a lower low, lower high. Now, the nice thing about this situation is that getting a lower low, lower high here is a pretty obvious thing because you've got this range. Okay, so you're looking to either sell at the top of the range, or you're looking to get a lower low, lower high. Now, we don't want to sell top of the range in the 15-minute time frame. We'd like to see a lower low, lower high. So, and how long after the market open? I mean, it should be quick, right? It should be 15 minutes, 30 minutes max. If you don't get that quickly after the market open, then just chill with London and look at New York and run the exact same process on the New York bias candle, which is the 8 o'clock candle. Okay. So we'll have a look and see how we close up going into London today. Okay. Great. Looking at the Aussie USD, where we do have a sell. Okay. I'm a lot more comfortable with this because at least we got something that's beyond neutrality. You can see here, what's interesting is that price yesterday came up and closed at this resistance, but keep in mind, you got price coming off support, okay, but still contained inside a range. So what we can do is we can take a look at the 4 hour time frame. Let's get that wick. So we're going to say what, 64121. And let's take a look at, so Asia bias is over here. Okay. At the time of Asia bias, has price broken the purple line? No, it hasn't closed above the daily wick. Has price broken resistance? And has that resistance become support? No, but we do recognize that price was coming off of this support as it came up into this resistance. Okay. But price still contained at the top of that resistance. We can see subsequently price has gone up. So clearly Asia was not bearish, right? So looking at the H1 time frame in terms of Asia, we can see here, looking at the daily time frame, we've got that. Let's get that candle inside there. So that wick, sorry. So 64121. And we can see going into Asia, which is all the way over here, 1 o'clock candle. Okay, over here, we can see their price closing at that support, bottom of the range. Okay. If we zoom out, do we have that connecting to any kind of support levels? Got some support left hand. Oh, sorry, I'm over here. Yeah, that was a wick over there, right? I'll change the color. Make this one blue. So you can see it there. There's a wick over there, price closing at that support. And that means not bearish, right? Okay. So we wouldn't have sold Asia. That's a good thing because you can see it's going up. Gravy. So going into the London bias candle, which is the 4 o'clock candle, this one over here, you can see we still haven't broken above the daily wick. This 4 o'clock candle closing at resistance. You can see there. Okay. So H4 doesn't say bullish at all. Of course, you could ask the question, well, is H4 coming off support? And the answer is well, yes. You're coming off that wick over there, right? So not ideal. Looking like price has, in fact, if we look over here, we haven't really tested that as support, have we? There's a potential for us to have broken resistance and resistance to have become support. And this red candle sitting on support over here. So what we can do is look at the H1 time frame. We can gather some evidence. So price right now, the H1 bias candle coming up above that daily wick. Okay. Breaking of resistance, resistance becoming support. You can see it there. Price breaking resistance, resistance becoming support. Okay, price heading higher. All right. So looking at an M15 time frame, do we have a lower low, lower high? We do not at this moment in time. We've got half an hour to go until the market open. So if we've got a lower low, lower high, it'll be quite apparent. It'll present itself on this time frame. Okay. So we got what, 2 candles to market open. Then we've got you can make a couple of candles after market open. You can see what has to happen here for this to make a lower low, lower high. Price has to come down. And the price has to pull back up and close a roll reversal, making sure that it made a lower low beforehand. So right now, it does not look like that's going to happen. It's not setting up for bearishness at the market open. Now, remember, you can get prices falling at market open. We're not worried about that. We don't want to just trade price falling. We want to trade a trend somewhere. So ultimately, if we can get a lower low, lower high on this time frame, we're golden. We don't want to be buying because our daily, we can see here, we didn't close at support. And nothing says bullish over here. H1 as well. Okay, we certainly are out of position. You can see here quite a bit out of position. So we're looking for that lower low, lower high. Now, if it doesn't come through in London, maybe it comes through in New York. Ultimately, right now, we're looking at this and saying, well, fundamentally bearish. And perhaps we can exercise that bearishness if we get the right price action for it. Okay. In terms of the remaining pairs, we got USD CAD coming through with a buy. Let's take a look at USD CAD. The problem with USD CAD is, from a daily perspective, you can see how we have got price coming down and sort of closing at the support over here. Indeed. But you look at where we are right now from a positional perspective, I do not feel comfortable buying USD CAD up here. It's not to say we don't go up higher. It's just to say that from a positional perspective, not a great situation to be in. Okay. Much more of a trade that you're in down here, and you're still running that trade. Okay. You look at the lower time frame chart and you can see that that's a range. So if you were looking to trade USD CAD and looking for the bottom of the range, you certainly have got price closing at support. And you could then just filter that through to your H4 time frame, confirm bullishness throughout the entire time frames, and ultimately be looking for a higher high, higher low on M15. And that could be your indication to get into a trade. Just remember, if you're looking at buying USD CAD, how are you going to get out of it? Remember where you are from a daily pivot point, monthly pivot point perspective. Okay. Seems rather out of position. In terms of the Kiwi yen being a buy, again, I understand I'm not selling it, but so far as buying it's concerned, I'm incredibly out of position right now. Okay. I've got to follow positional trading. Right. You can see fundamentally bullish. Cool. No problem. But right now, from a monthly perspective, very much out of position. Okay. So I'm going to leave that one. You got to have some kind of control, right? From a technical perspective, you always want to buy low and sell high, always. If you can focus on doing that, you'll divide half your problems. Because if you only buy low, then you're never ever going to risk losing money above the central. If you only sell high, you're never going to risk money selling below the central. So you've instantly divided all your losses in half. Okay. So my feeling for today is keeping an eye, not even the euro dollar, keeping an eye on the Aussie dollar. Seeing as we've got a fundamental bias of bearish, and we have got an indication where, fair enough, price has come off support over here, coming up into resistance. The question is, well, is that neutral? Well, technically, price was bullish as it closed at resistance, but that's fine because you can verify it lower time frame. If you get a lower low, lower high on a 15-minute time frame, then you have reason to sell this. But just make sure you tie that into a bias candle. So, for example, you can see that the 4 o'clock candle closing at resistance. Okay. Verify that lower time frame. Verify that H1. Has price broken the wick? Now, if you decided you were going to use H4 in this situation and not the daily, you could just do this. Six four triple one. I've got it there. 64111. Let's get rid of the blue. And then on the H1 time frame, you're simply saying, well, has price broken above the H4 wick? Yes, it has. Okay. Has price closed at a higher level of resistance? Okay. Now we can't really see one left-hand side because they're all the way down there. So no, not immediately, no. Okay. So that's fine. Has price closed at support? No. Has price broken resistance and has resistance become support? No. Price is all the way up here. Okay. So this time frame doesn't really, it gives us neutrality. It kind of says like, well, yeah, we're all the way up here, but we haven't really got a lower low, lower high. We haven't got price closing at resistance, and we are above that 4-hour candle. So instead of price going down from this resistance, which we identified price being at resistance, instead of price going down from this resistance, prices continue going up. Well, that doesn't seem incredibly bearish, but we can verify it further by saying, okay, I need more information. Let me wait for a lower low, lower high M15. Okay, or lower low, lower high M5. And right now you can see you haven't got that. So that final check is going to keep you out of trouble. And here's the thing. If price just falls without forming a lower, like a lower high, then just realize that that's not the trade that you take. You simply look at that and say, okay, that's not the type of trade I take. I'm looking for a lower low, lower high. That's just something else. If you were in the stop looking correct session yesterday, you remember discussing the one student who is a connoisseur of whiskey, and he has very specific whiskeys that he buys and very specific whiskeys he does not buy. Well, in trading, there are very specific types of trades that you take and very specific types of trades that you do not take, because one of them gives you a decent ROI and one of them gives you a gambling addiction. If you want to trade something that's going to go down and stay down, it must be long-term bearish. Long-term bearish is relevant to time frame. So it could be bearish for today, bearish for the next 2 days, whatever the case may be. But lower lows and lower highs are a great way to go. All right, so stay vigilant, stay focused. What's interesting is the fundamentals starting to change across the board. We'll see what happens with that. But Aussie USD remains bearish, which is very interesting based on what's happening right now with price. Okay. No lower low, lower high, no trade. Good luck today. Stay focused, stay disciplined, stay liquid.